This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a program combining the science and magic of today's leading topics to co-create new solutions and promote evolutionary thinking. We're coming to you through the leader in responsible paranormal and alternative science programming, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring the realm of spirit. One of the most important places for science and magic to collaborate is in the study of spirit. While science restricts itself to that which can be proven by measurement, the existence of the spiritual realm has been alluded to in every culture for millennia. Through comparative mythology alone, this indicates there's something beyond what we can currently measure. The spiritual realm is vast, complex, and affects every area of our life. Yet, we ignore this realm because science can't validate it, to our detriment. What is the spiritual realm? Let's consider the spiritual realm as not a place, but a continuum in frequencies beyond our current ability to measure. By this definition, X-ray and radiation could have been considered the spiritual realms until our instrumentation became refined enough to detect them. Once detected by science, now they magically exist? Does anyone else see the illogic? Humans are able to perceive much more than we can currently measure. The perception of what we call the spiritual realm is beyond the normal function of our five senses, but nonetheless is perceived by them. The ability to access and accurately decode esoteric information is a skill engaged for over 50,000 years through the practice of shamanism. By performing the shamanic journey trance, the practitioner alters their brainwaves, dropping from beta to alpha, then entering theta. Spiritual information perceived through our five senses is subliminal. While we're in beta, where the linear mind is engaged, theta, on the other hand, is a dream state. The shamanic trance is an interactive dream, wherein the metaphorical representation of spiritual information is perceived by the imagination instead of the mind. The skill of accessing and accurately decoding the allegorical data into a linear form that makes sense to the brain requires much training and discipline. For this reason, some modern metaphysical or New Age factions tend to have a less than accurate view of the spiritual realm. For example, spiritual frequencies often present themselves in the imagination as metaphors of angels or demons representing beneficial or incompatible frequencies, respectively. In absence of adequate training, these allegories are taken literally. The resulting giant leaps of illogic and erroneous conclusions have led to ungrounded and far-fetched belief systems so common today. Another problem is this. Just because we're unaware of the frequencies of the spiritual realm doesn't mean we're unaffected by them. There's a frequency produced by every thought, intent, and emotion we generate that has a profound effect in the world. If we're unaware of the frequencies we're sending out or being impacted by, then we're ignorant of much of the cause and effect in our lives. Negative thoughts or intent sent to another can and does greatly impact their well-being. These thoughts or intents can continue long after the death of the person generating them, resulting in hauntings. The energy tied up in unprocessed, projected thoughts, intents, and emotions remaining behind after death can inhibit our ability to climb the frequency ladder in order to cross over. In this way, part of our personal frequency becomes trapped in the lower realms, creating ghosts. On the other hand, if we become conscious of the frequency influences around us, we can use group agreement and intention to direct these frequencies in order to create positive change in the world. This is the basis behind the power of prayer. At present, neither the scientific approach of not validating a thing until it can be measured, nor the New Age approach of fanciful perceptions and interpretations enables us to accurately and responsibly interface with and wield the amazing power of spirit. Our guest this hour, Larry Lawson, has been an active paranormal investigator for over a decade. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Larry, and together we'll explore the science and the magic of paranormal investigation. So don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
Welcome back, folks. This is The Science of Magic, and I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. In this series of topic-driven explorations, we'll be looking into the greatly misunderstood land of spirit and its profound effect in our daily lives. With us this hour to explore the subject of paranormal investigation is Lawson. Larry is a 37-year veteran of law enforcement, which includes time as a detective, detective supervisor, criminal justice instructor, and the director of Region 11 Criminal Justice Training Academy. Larry also founded the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations. His team focuses on the use of standardized and accepted criminal investigative techniques to conduct their investigations. Larry's also the host of one of my favorite programs, The Paranormal Stakeout, aired daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Larry's website is paranormalstakeout.com and paranormalfbi.com. Larry, thank you so much for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Oh, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, Gwilda.
You know, there's a lot of paranormal investigators out there, but you're taking a different approach. How's your career as a detective influenced your work?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I've been asked dozens of times, how as a cop can you even go down this road? How can you even believe this type of thing? And pretty much my standard answer is, are you looking for a law enforcement officer that makes judgment based upon their own perceptions and beliefs? Or are you looking for an investigator who has an open mind, ready and willing to look at all angles of the evidence presented to come up with the right answer? And once I explain it that way, people get it. Now, what that really means is my training as an investigator allows me to look at things dispassionately and objectively in order to collect and preserve the evidence needed to, for lack of a better term, go to trial.
So, Larry, whatever possessed you to get into paranormal investigation?
It's like a lot of us. Things have happened. Obviously, being a cop, working nights, you see strange things, strange events that you can't explain occur. I've had a couple in my lifetime that kind of drove me this way. And quite frankly, there's even as a child, just strange things have always piqued my interest. But certainly my work in law enforcement and my desire to investigate, to find the answers, is my driving force.
What do you see as the main failing of most paranormal investigators?
Feeling as far as what the phenomenon is?
No, failing, as in,
failing.
Where do they fall down? Yeah.
The lack of training, the lack of looking at it from an objective point of view, almost to the point where they want things to happen. And it's most often not an intentful feeling. It's just emotions get involved, the desire to find something gets involved, and people don't look at the evidence as they should.
Do you think we can also go the other way with it, be so strict that we aren't allowing information in?
And I think that can happen too, and I think people's perceptions of what is evidence and what is not can certainly affect that. And that's one reason why I'm a big proponent of standards within the industry, if you will, to create a level of agreement on evidence and how it should be collected, what it is, how it should be preserved, and how it should be presented.
It sounds like you're starting to set some new standards. That's pretty exciting.
Well, I'd like to. Obviously, this is going to take a lot of work from a lot of dedicated folks in the field, and I've had the honor and pleasure of speaking to a number of them over the recent times, and we're really going to try and head that way. And the big thing, Gwilda, is we have to work together to meet this standard. And not just folks like myself, and I know you're going to disagree with it because I consider myself as sensitive as a rock, you might say. But folks that are in my field that are looking for tangible evidence, stuff that we can see, feel, because that's what humans are often like this. We got to see it, touch it, feel it, taste it. And that's where I'm coming from. And then we have folks on the side where you are coming from, the sensitive, empathic individuals that can see and hear things that the rest of us can't. We've got to come together and meld that so that we can produce the evidence that is going to be required to prove our case.
So, in your career as a detective, seeing is believing, right? And conclusions require proof. So, how do you reconcile that when dealing with the paranormal or the unseen? How are you going to pull that together?
Well, this is where those standards and that training come into place. Certainly, while I talk about tangible evidence, I also have the faith in, for you example, I have faith in what you tell me, you experience, you see, you feel. We have members of our team that have that gift. And over the years of, let's face it, we all evolve. Even an old cop like me evolves and comes to understand faith in some things is necessary. So while having that faith in everything you tell me, we've got to continue to come up with methods, techniques, instrumentation in order to quantify or make that evidence tangible. Where we're heading with that yet, I wish I had that answer, Gwilda. But we're working towards it, and some really great minds in this field are working towards it because we all understand that your side of it and my side of it must come together in order to prove the whole. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. As I understand it, it's paranormal investigators. Most of your equipment has been appropriated from other purposes. So what are the strengths and the limitations of the current equipment you use in the field?
Strengths and limitations. The strengths are we're able to gather certain bits of information. Take like your standard EMF type of detectors, which frankly, as you well said, comes from other areas. Electricians often used for many years to find outlets such as electrical outlets, electrical fields. Taking the theory that spirits, ghosts, whatever term you use for them, are manifestations of energy, these pieces of equipment can identify certain anomalies. Our recorders, and I can tell you for a fact, and why it happens, I can't totally prove it, but I have personally dealt with many, many EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, that come across recorders. All these things are tools that we're using now that give us, the best way to put it is, gives us enough information to excite us, but doesn't put us over the edge as far as proof. So we've got to get the minds that are much more sophisticated than mine when it comes to equipment to tweak, change, update the equipment so that we can now begin to identify exactly where these sources of energy come from and what they are, frequencies of UO. You and I have talked about that quite a bit. All those things need to be improved so that we can begin to make it more tangible evidence.
Yeah, this brings me to an interesting point that you and I have discussed off air, and that's if spirit is indeed frequency, but we generate frequency. How can we tell if we're looking at a haunting or some of our intent? Is anything refined enough to tell the difference at this point?
Not at this point, and that's an area that we've got to tweak our equipment in. How can we tell? And I've seen some recent studies and seen some recent experiments where investigators have become so intent in what they want, they unintentionally, and that's an important word, unintentionally will almost project their feelings forward. I saw a great experiment by a terrific individual, Brian Kano, who was actually doing that, taking an event where investigators were in a room thinking of a certain word with the purpose or the hope of hearing that word on an EVP. Now, the success of that experiment helps to show that we're able sometimes to project our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, almost to the point where it could interfere with an actual paranormal investigation. So we've got to get equipment that can tell the difference. Don't know where we're at, don't know how long it'll be before we can reach that point, but we know that it's got to happen.
Well, there's a lot of us out there really kind of driving in this direction because the unseen, it might be unseen, but it certainly does affect our daily lives. And the sooner we become aware of it and responsible in what we do with our energy, I think the better, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to an individual the other day who had enough foresight to realize what was happening, but felt that they might have been visited, if you will, by a spirit, but now after close examination of where he was at, is now maybe saying, could have been me. And I think that's an important revelation. And I think investigators have to, and this is where one of my training issues come into place. We have got to keep our emotions in check in order to avoid that type of projection.
Yeah, and I think on my side of it too, the more esoteric side, training is absolutely the key because there's these giant leaps of illogic happening based on information that we're misinterpreting.
Absolutely. And here's part of that issue. We are human beings. We all have our different perceptions, our different belief systems, how we see things, how we live our lives. And that causes us to have very varying opinions on what it is we're seeing. In the spiritual world, for example, and you and I have talked about this, you could have three folks with the gift, and I have no doubt that they have it, but they interpret what spirit is three different ways. Well, that does not help us when it comes to proving our case, because immediately the uninformed or the folks that are looking at this from the outside are saying, well, how can that be real if you're a medium, you're a medium, you're a medium, but you both tell me three different things? So that could be an emotional issue, a training issue.
Yeah, what's going on there in a lot of cases, Lair, is that just because we're picking up on the frequency level doesn't mean we're tuned into the same frequency. And
True.
people just kind of, cast out there to pick up what they can pick up, not recognizing you have to really refine it and tune into exactly where and when we're looking. Otherwise, you're on three different channels, and of course, you're getting different music.
And that makes sense when you're like you and I are talking about it. But when if we're going to prove our case, if we are going to get to a point in the world today where people are going to take this type of investigation, this field seriously, we can't have three people saying I'm right, and having three different answers. Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does.
And that comes with, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, is training and standards. And with that, you then get everybody on the same sheet of music.
Exactly. And it's training and standards in your arena and in mine. The two have to come together, I think, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And this is why a coming together of the experts in the field are important, because Gwilda, right now, there is no conceivable way I could even. It would be like me trying to do brain surgery. I don't know how to do brain surgery, and I certainly do not know how to use your gifts. So you would have to be part of the discussion. Folks in your field would have to be part of that discussion with folks on my side to come up with the right set of standards.
Well, I look forward to those kind of encounters myself, don't you?
I do, because I think that's where the future lies. And I think until we get to that point where we can come together and there's a whole other issue of folks feeling they're right and not willing to share information or share different thoughts or being open-minded enough to look at different ways of doing things. Until we reach that point, it's going to be tough to start building those standards. But that's where we got to head.
Yeah, I'm in such agreement with you. That's what the program is about, is bringing science and magic together to create a third option, to create a in-depth study of different subjects that we can trust. We're going to have to take a break. Larry and I will return to our discussion on the other side of this break, so don't go away. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't miss the other fine shows and hosts on xzbn.net, including Larry's most excellent show, Paranormal Stakeout. You're listening to The Science of Magic, your resource for creative solutions in a changing world. thescienceofmagic.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. Welcome back, folks. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. We cover what's hot. For in-depth exploration of leading-edge subjects from numerous authorities and viewpoints, join our email family to receive our topic-driven collections at thescienceofmagic.net. Our guest this hour is 37-year veteran of law enforcement and the founder of Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations, Larry Lawson. Larry, tell me, do you personally believe in ghosts?
The quick and easy answer is yes. The more accurate answer is I believe after years of experience in different areas that there is something out there that we have yet to fully understand and comprehend. Now, whether that's the ghost in your traditional sense, I'm not sure. I can tell you this. I have personally experienced some things I cannot explain that appear to be messages or visions visions is a bad word, but messages from the other side, whether it be EVPs, shadow people, other things that go bump in the night. I do believe, yes. And that is so important is to believe.
It is because, shamanically speaking, if you don't believe it, you don't, well, even psychologically speaking, if you don't believe it, you don't perceive it, even if it's right in front of you. But it's a delicate dance between believing and creating it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that goes back to our earlier discussion. I have dealt with people, as I'm sure you have, that want to believe so much they almost create it in their own mind, and it's not even a projection issue. It's a perception issue within themselves that that sudden bang in the house is my Uncle Bill calling me and letting me know he's okay. And that's quite a leap. But for folks that really want to believe, perhaps need something so bad that they want to believe it, it creates that entity that's not really not there.
So what's your stance on mediumship? Have you found mediums to be useful in paranormal investigations, and what are their strengths and limitations?
Okay, that's a great question. My first really encounter with mediums was in the law enforcement field, and frankly, dealing with some cases, they weren't all that positive because, once again, I would get mediums calling on these rather large cases saying, this bit of evidence here or that body is there, and I would get 3 or 4 saying something totally different. To most of us, that's an indication they don't have the right answer. Now, keeping that in mind and growth and evolving over the years, I have dealt with some mediums that were absolutely spot on. I've had cases where, and I'm talking paranormal cases now, where a medium or sensitive had no information regarding the investigation we were doing, yet came up with exactly the right answers that I'd already known through my pre-investigation evaluation and inquiries. So I've seen some really good things happen. Now, I've also personally had mediums, which I really had my doubt in, tell me things that unless somebody in my life had contacted this person and provided them with in-depth, detailed information that probably only my mom would know, they were spot on also. So I have that belief. Now, that's my personal belief and faith. I can't take that and go to court with it. And that's where we got to go. And that's where we got to somehow find that bridge.
It requires a lot of discipline to believe and at the same time not interfere, doesn't it?
Explain. Believe and not interfere.
It's like we were talking, believing, and this is probably part of your training as a police officer. It's like that unreasonable, beyond a reason of a doubt. So we might believe personally that something exists, but if we believe so hard, we interfere with our energy, then it can skew results. That makes this area very difficult to investigate, I would think.
And it's no different in my daytime job, as I call it. If I believe somebody committed a crime, I've still got to prove it. And if I believe so hard they did it that I start looking at the evidence in an inappropriate way, I could put somebody in jail that doesn't belong there. So yes, whether it's the law enforcement field, the paranormal field, yes, our beliefs, our emotions, our desire, if not held in check, if not properly trained, can definitely skew the results that end up harming the good, the whole.
There's, as I understand it, there's a value of observing a thing from many different viewpoints. So given that, how do you think science and the esoteric can support each other in paranormal investigation?
Well, let's face it, Wilda, there's got to be a level of faith. There's got to be a level of belief that the individual that may have these gifts is being sincere in what they're doing and what their motives are, just as much as the physical investigator, if you will, is conducting themselves according to laws and rules and standards, as well as the proper intent. Once we get both sides together on that, then we have to start talking about what is it you have on your instrumentation, what is it you're feeling or seeing, and how do we turn that into evidence that is tangible. Now, when I conduct an investigation, I use a word called triangulation, and it means a bunch of different things in law enforcement, but in this particular realm, if you and I were conducting an investigation together, and you were in another room, perhaps passing some information to me about somebody that's a spirit that's with us, and I have a recorder going, a spirit box, a recorder, something like that, and some sort of electromagnetic indicator like a K2 meter, a Mel meter, and you're telling me one thing, and I'm getting something over the recorder, and the EMF detector is also reacting to it. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Now we're starting to show, well, Wilda's telling me this, the recorder is acknowledging this, and at the same time, I'm getting these electronic hits. Does that make sense, Gwilda?
It does, and boy, wouldn't that be a happy day, huh?
Well, I've actually had stuff similar to that happen, and that's why I know it can be done. But it takes patience, it takes perseverance. One of the things folks tend to get, I think, in investigators, we get antsy. When stuff doesn't happen, we either get bored or we say nothing's going on. Well, I equate paranormal investigation to fishing. Very simple term, but because folks, sometimes the fish are biting and sometimes they're not. And sometimes you got to wait for the fish to bite. So therefore, we've got to be patient and steadfast in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and take the time to see an investigation through and not jump to conclusions after 15, 20 minutes. And that would be the case in an experiment like I just described to you. We may have to sit there for 3 or 4 hours before something happens. And you've got to be disciplined and you've got to be trained.
So how many types of ghosts or hauntings are there?
Ooh, wow. That's a better question for you, I think. Obviously the types we look for are residual or intelligent haunts, the residual being almost like the recording of an event. And you've heard of them where a lady's walking across the room and is oblivious to everything. Everybody's sitting in that room eating dinner, and every year at a certain time, she glides across the room. Residual haunt. As compared to something about, are you here? Can you knock on the wall? And you get 3 knocks, which would be almost an intelligent answer to a question. Those are the types that we normally deal with. Obviously, the intelligent haunts we try to interact with and try to get some answers, try to find out who they are, what they are, why they're here. And that does lead to some interesting discussions.
I would imagine. So when you're, let's go from the other direction. Have you ever worked with a medium in law enforcement? I've done that, and I wondered if you'd experienced that.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. I'll be honest with you, and this is not a negative shot at the medium world at all. I just have not been fortunate enough to have been paired with a medium during a criminal investigation that, frankly, I thought was credible. But that's like saying because one doctor's not credible, none of them are. So I certainly don't want to cast a net over all of them. I just was not fortunate enough to have anybody that worked with me on a case that came forward that provided me with the information that was usable. I know people that have, and I know cops that have had some terrific luck with them. So I do believe that they can be helpful. Now comes a problem with that. How do you prove that in court? Well, if the medium is able to provide evidence that the investigator can then back up through criminal investigation and actual tangible physical evidence, well, now you've got that triangulation of sorts.
and a lot of one of the reason I brought it up is because now we're looking at a different kind of spirit. It could be spirits of people that are still alive, but the intense emotion was left in the locale of the crime.
That's a new concept that I'm just becoming more familiar with. I find it intriguing and deserving of further investigation. For example, a victim of rape, perhaps is able to project that. That would be interesting. Haven't personally experienced that one yet, but I'd be interested in exploring that.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff, I would think. So, and that goes back. Go ahead.
Have you had that? Have you had the opportunity to work it from that angle?
Yes, because there's something we call soul loss. In other words, we disconnect from part of our frequency through trauma, and that frequency can remain in a place, and it's actually a ghost of a living person. It's very fascinating.
Well, and that kind of goes along with almost the projection topic we discussed earlier, where the emotion is leaving that imprint. That's interesting stuff. I find it interesting that if we're able to get evidence along those lines, how do we make it provable in court? That would be a real interesting study also.
Well, I'd have to go back to your triangulation, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's about the only way I guess you could do it, at least at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't want to have somebody be persecuted based on something that I picked up esoterically, because, we are viewing through a glass darkly, and training hasn't been around for a long time.
No, and really, maybe it's because of my years also in criminal justice education. I just feel that training is going to be vital for all of us, your side of the house as well as mine, to create a field that people say, yes, I get it. Okay, I'm willing to listen now, instead of just casting us off as folks that get scared at bumps in the night.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people out there that need your services, aren't there?
Yes. As far as the paranormal side, absolutely. But we also got to be very, very careful of that. And here, once again, are people not only being trained properly, but also understanding their limitations. One of the things that frightens me are people that are going out and saying, I want to help. We want to help folks. Well, unless you're properly trained, for example, I have, at least at this point in my life, because I know where you're going to go with this, I don't have the ability to help a spirit pass over. I don't. So for me to tell a person, yes, I can help you, well, I better make darn sure I can do that, because otherwise you may be hurting them worse if I am not able to help them resolve their problem.
Got it. We're going to have to take a break again.
Sure.
Larry and I will be back shortly, so don't leave us now. The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net, is your resource to altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric working to create common ground for the betterment of our world.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. What's up in your world? Email me at info@thescienceofmagic.net and suggest a topic of what's on your mind. You're probably not the only one interested. Our guest this hour is the founder of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations and the host of the radio show Paranormal Stakeout, Larry Lawson. Larry, we were just talking about a very interesting topic when it comes to paranormal investigation, and that's the service or disservice of helping people to cross. What do you know about that?
Well, I think that most people that are in this field for any length of time have the right intentions, the desire to help others, whether it be a person that left in this physical world that is still maybe in mourning and looking for answers or comfort, or maybe a spirit that's passing over in whichever way you believe that occurs. But sometimes folks in their desire to help, as well as their desire to find answers, might possibly begin to overstep their bounds. And that's a concern of mine, that folks that really aren't equipped to help are doing so, and thus causing more harm to the folks that are seeking the help.
I couldn't agree with you more, because helping the dead to cross is called psychopomp in my line of work. Okay. And it's a very complex practice. And one of the main points of the practice that we tend to, I think, overlook is, what if the ghost isn't ready to go? Do we just impose this on them? What if the person this morning isn't ready to let go? And people don't look at that much. Do you believe?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. And I think there are reasons why spirits, regardless of why you think they're here or what they are, there's sometimes reasons that they don't want to go. And yeah, I'd absolutely agree. And I've certainly spoken to people that are saying, look, I really don't want the spirit to leave. I just want to know more about them. Which is sometimes a little bit scary, because you got to wonder about the intent of the person. But sometimes it's just emotion. It says, I don't want my Uncle Bill to leave. I like the fact that he's here. So I totally get that, and I agree with you. But I'm also very, very concerned that folks are going to say, okay, I've taken care of it. That spirit that's been throwing your door open every night is now gone. And for a week, everything's fine. And suddenly the client's doors start flying open again. What have you really accomplished? And that may be an exaggerated example, but that's what worries me. And that's, once again, where training comes into place, and if folks understanding their capabilities and their limits at any given time in their career or their search of themselves.
So why are you doing this? What do you see as the real value in paranormal investigation?
Well, from my personal aspect, and we all have our own desires, I want to find the answers. I would like to find out, what it is on the other side. I'm a career detective. Finding the answers to the puzzle is just something I've been doing since I was a young man. And not that I'm old now, mind you, but since I was a young man, I've always wanted to find the answers. Now, in this, of course, I've evolved in starting off wanting to find those answers. I've evolved into understanding that this world is a bigger, much more complex, multi-layered place, dimensions and everything else. So in addition to finding out the answers, I'm curious in helping other people also begin to understand that.
That's another layer above, really, isn't it? Outside
Yeah.
of just going out and investigating, it's changing the whole field in a good way. And
Yes.
I have to commend you on that. It's needed. It's needed.
Well, thank you.
Tell us about your clients. What sort of cases do you get?
Well, we tend to. I work in a little town called Fellsmere, and in Fellsmere we have some very, very active buildings, if you will. And I am fortunate enough to have a city government and city fathers that support what I'm trying to do. They have faith in me and they trust me. So because of that, I'm allowed to conduct investigations and inquiries into different buildings at different times. So my vision is to create this paranormal laboratory in which serious investigators that are like-minded, they're trying to find the answers, trying to improve this field for the good of all, can come, perhaps conduct investigations, try out new ideas, pieces of equipment, theories, and come up with some answers, because I have an area that I can do that in, not just one building, but a number of buildings, as well as a lot of land that has its interesting values, shall we say. So that's kind of where I'm going with this, and that's where I see the vision is. I actually have that laboratory that we can conduct the experiments I think that we need to improve all kinds of techniques, equipment, and theories.
How fun to bring and train mediums in the same arena.
Well, once again, it's got to be done. We all have to do it. If we're going to work in concert, and there is no way that we can fully conduct these investigations if we don't do it in concert, they need to be there too, because somehow we've got to reach a point that if mediums, what is the true interpretation of what the medium sees? And while that could be colored by somebody's perception, there has still got to be some level of similarity that we can use to connect with that group as well as the scientific side of it. That's really where I want to go. Now, how long is it going to take? God, I wish I knew. I'd be rich if I knew.
Well, I think things are happening pretty fast right now, so it could get exciting.
I hope so.
Larry, can ghosts be dangerous? Can they hurt people?
I've certainly seen it. I've seen people being scratched. I've seen people being pushed. So I guess the easy answer to that is yes. What I think there's also the issue of dynamic demonic impression or entities. I can't get my words out right now, and that's a whole topic for a different time as to what they are and what they mean. And certainly, there's a lot of different understandings and perceptions of that. So, but yes, I have seen people physically hurt. Like I said, scratched. So you got to say yes. If they can do that, there's the possibility of dangers. Now, why is that? What's causing it? Like I said, that's a subject we could spend another hour on.
We'll have to do that sometime. Would you be willing to share with us the most remarkable paranormal investigation you've been on?
The most remarkable one. Yeah, it's kind of one that is one of those triangulation things. It involves my son, who I have some faith is gifted in some ways, and he was using dowsing rods. Now, bear in mind, dowsing rods are something I didn't believe in at all. To me, that was just it was just somebody's physical body moving these rods. But we conducted an investigation where I had 3 pieces of equipment, all triangulating, and as my son was asking the questions, the rods were responding to it. I was getting the same questions answered, or at least the indications of the other pieces of equipment. And the indication there was these spirits of these individuals in the house freely moved between dimensions, including heaven. Now, whether their definition of heaven was ours or not is up for debate, but the bottom line is they were talking about moving in between dimensions. And I personally found that fascinating because I sat there and I watched it. Now, while I can't prove it in court, I know what I saw. I know what was occurring in front of me. So that was fascinating. The other one, very quickly, was in our old school at Fellsmere. We had a piece of equipment up there that, once again, I was not really comfortable with what it produced. And it produces voices through radio waves. And we were up there, and we asked how many, who's in this room, and named some names. Okay, that's fine. That looks good. How many people in the room? 7. Clearly heard it myself. 7. Okay. How many, including you, was the next question? 8. Wow, this is pretty interesting. So then I decided to ask the question, because there were 7 of us in the room. I said, where are we at right now? Now, bear in mind, this is going through radio frequencies with a theory of that spirits can collect words off the frequencies. And while places like Miami and Orlando all kind of roll off the tongue and you can kind of hear them on any radio station, Fellsmere is not really a place you hear on the radio too often. But sure enough, twice on this piece of equipment, the word Fellsmere clearly came out. Somebody either doctored the machine, which there's no indication or evidence that occurred, or this machine out of the blue used the town of Fellsmere as where we were located. So that was pretty significant to me.
Yeah, I would think. That's amazing. We've got a couple minutes left, Lair. Where do you stand on regulations and standards being introduced into the field of paranormal investigation?
I think that is absolutely the only way that we can come together as a community. And by I mean the paranormal community is the only way we can come together and create a field of study that is recognized by others. If you do not have standards, if you do not have rules, so to speak, then you will not be taken seriously by the scientific community or the public. We have to have a set of rules, and we have to have standards that have to be agreed on, and accreditation is a whole nother subject we didn't touch on tonight, but would also help this to get people to take what we're doing seriously and to be able to produce the evidence we need to prove our case.
That's so important because this is a whole field that affects everyone's life, and yet it's totally invalidated and not taken seriously for lack of accreditation and training.
And standards.
And standards. Big part of standards.
Yes.
Well, it's just been so fun going over this with you. Where can people get a hold of you if they need your help as a paranormal investigator?
Well, there's a couple places they can go. Certainly www.paranormalstakeout.com on the wonderful XZBN radio network, but also our website at www.paranormalfbi.com. That's the website for the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. That's a great way to get a hold of me. And also Indian River Hauntings, LLC, where we do some events, www.indianriverhauntings.com.
Well, thank you so much, Larry. Our guest this hour has been the founder of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations, Larry Lawson. Larry's also the host of the very popular radio show, Paranormal Stakeout. This has been The Science of Magic, thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you explore the amazing world of spirit.